Yo.
Yo.
What's up?
Hi. What's going on?
Let's no longer waste time. Let's podcast. This is episode
7.
Is it 7?
Yep.
8?
With
7-ish, 8? 7B?
3. Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We had some technical difficulties with the last one. The whole computer crashed down on me, so hopefully that doesn't happen again.
We're still just ironing this out. Years of ironing this out.
This is pretty good. We suspected it could have been Big Dental because we were on to something about the dental industry, the money-making scams, I think.
Ooh, alleged.
Oh, yeah, alleged.
Yeah, they're alleged.
So I think they shut us down. Big Dental has eyes and ears everywhere.
Big Soap. They definitely can. They have a power that, a reach.
I thought of you the other night because we were watching a TV show. That's right. We were farm porn. We were watching a show, and we learned that the other day was National Lima Bean Day. Right?
Which everyone celebrates.
Oh yeah. What did you do?
What I do every year. Go on.
So my wife turns to me and she just says, "How do you get National Lima Bean Day? How does that even happen?" And I looked at her, I said, "Yeah, you know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you?"
Yeah. Big lima bean.
Big lima bean.
Big lima bean.
The big lima bean,
right.
Pack.
Yes.
That's like their crowning achievement is National
Fiber Vegetables of America.
How does because somewhere there is like a coalition of lima bean people,
of course,
how does that even get together?
Do you think it's got to be an industry with a B, like $1 billion industry, lima beans?
Oh, for sure.
And they're probably in a lot of things we don't know other than it's a food source, but I think it's probably an additive because they're fibrous. They're, so there are probably additives of lima beans and things, but they could also be dried out and like used as stuffing in futons, and we just don't know that. That's what I'm saying. I think they're multi-purpose, because when was the last time you're like, what I'm really craving tonight? Lima beans. Really, I
don't even see lima beans as like a restaurant side dish.
No, it could be if it's something like a farm to table 100-mile diet.
Maybe.
And in the 100 miles, there's lima beans.
Maybe. I mean, you don't see like macaroni and cheese, sauteed potatoes, asparagus, lima beans, Brussels sprouts. Like it's never the table sharing option.
But think about it. Brussels sprouts, from a brand perspective, has really done a 180. They went from being gross and boiled to now like almost like an appetizer. Like, Brussels sprouts.
And I'm not saying that
10 years ago.
And I'm not saying that the bacon bits that usually come with Brussels sprouts have anything to do with that. But yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Brussels sprouts used to be like the official, if you don't finish your Brussels sprouts, you're not playing on your video game. Like it was like the traumatized child who wouldn't eat his vegetables example. Brussels sprouts.
Because they were boiled or steamed. They weren't baked and charred with a little bit of balsamic vinaigrette and a little, sea salt,
some kind of syrup,
bacon. And now look at them. So they definitely had Saatchi come in and rebrand them. But I think, lima beans needs that. Lima beans needs some sort of rebranding. But I'm glad they started with Lima Bean Day.
What's funny is the agency came in because they were called in because they just weren't selling enough Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
And there was someone who probably sat down and said, "Look, you don't need an ad campaign. What you need is a grill, some bacon bits, and a little syrup."
Yeah. It's like, I think it's one word. Like, my marketing is 2 words, Brad Pitt, and it solves everything. Just point to a picture of Brad Pitt. If we can get Brad Pitt, we can sell this. I think it's one word, and they just went bacon. And everyone was like, okay. It was like, but hold on. Just let it bacon. Huh? And And people are like, bacon. Yes. Big pork and big
Sprout.
Brussels sprout get together, and now we can take over the world. Because big bacon has no brand problem at all.
I just started thinking about because someone came up with National Lima Bean Day, right? Yeah. Like that was someone's charge. That was their job.
The National Fibrous Vegetable Association. Yes.
And I started thinking, like, what's the strangest profession? And I don't mean strange, like, why would anyone do that? I mean, like, most random. Yeah, I guess there would be a job for that profession. Like, have you ever met? Like, if someone hands you a card and it just said, like, you know, Joe Davidson, lima beans, right? Like, and you're like, well, I guess someone is in charge of lima beans.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, have you ever met anyone where you're just like, well, yeah, I guess there is someone who designs Pez dispensers. You know, like you see Pez dispensers everywhere, and there's an art director out there who their job is to put the heads on it, right? Like they make the art and they have stories, I'm sure, you know, like, you know, they'll be talking about the time that they were supposed to do like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And they're just like, man, that Roadrunner looked like a rooster. Remember that botch? You know, like, man, that was awful. Like, you know, and like they're in this Pez industry where like, you know, they hand you their business card. Although it'd be amazing if their business cards like were dispensed.
Was a
like,
Pez. Yeah.
Yeah, like they open up the top and this business card comes sliding out and they're like, here you go.
And you know they've thought that through. If it isn't, then you're like, what are you doing? You're lazy. Right. This should be a Pez dispenser.
Yeah, you're too in the industry. You got to start thinking outside the box. You need everything dispensed.
Right. I think through my agency career, it's been mostly associations. That there's an association for everything. And without having a producer on hand yet, until we become really popular, is someone Googling for us. Like there has to be a lima bean association. A National Association of Fibrous Vegetables or something like that. And I think once you meet those people in DC, you're like, oh, like, what do you do all day? Like, I remember we did web work for the National Bottling Association, the ABA. And they just were trying to beat big cans. You know, they're going against cans, and cans were bad and bottles were good. And they were going through this brand thing that bottles were bad. And I didn't even know there was this undertow of like cans versus bottles, and bottled beer. Apparently they were fighting that because then can became really popular. And they're like, oh, it's really cutting into our, you know, and I remember sitting there going like, I didn't even think of that Pepsi Coke, can bottles, they're always fighting each other, and that they had to have an association of bottle manufacturers, because after a while, I think when you're an association, if you think about it, you have to show value of what you're doing. And after a while, you're like, well, we can only lobby so much. Do you know what I mean? Like there's only so much you can do. So they bring in people like you and me and go, have you ever thought of, what if we, you know what I mean? You start like, there's new people in the room.
So you're basically just like, what if cans cause cancer?
Right.
And then they're like, well, do they? And then you're like, well, don't they?
Right.
You know, and
I heard that they do. I don't know.
I know a guy who has cancer, and I've seen lots of cans in his recycling bin. And like, do they know each other too? Like, do all the head bottle people have all the head can people's pictures up in their office? That motivates them. Like every morning they're like,
yep. Or they recruit. We got Bob from Big Cans. He's coming up Big Cans. That'd be great. Whoops. He's now working for Big Bottle, so he's got the playbook. We know what they do.
Like there might be some type of like government that regulates the packaging. We'll call it liquid packaging, and like they're going to make some law, and like you see like 4 or 5 of the big can people in their suits with their briefcases in DC, and like they walk out of a meeting and there's like 5 or 6 of the big bottle people sitting there, and they just kind of stare each other down like when they're passing. So like when an agency pitch, you know, like when you go into pitch and then you leave and you see the next agency in the lobby and you're all kind of sizing each other up a little bit, and not realizing everybody looks the same, right? Like there's like two guys in suits. There's like the creative guy in a black button-down shirt and jeans
with just a t-shirt, and a blazer because someone told him to wear a blazer, right? Yeah, and, I think that's a thing. I like drinking out of a can or a bottle. Beer.
Do I?
Yeah. Which one?
I prefer. It depends on the beer, right? Like I'll do both. Sometimes I'll get in the mood. Like if I'm on the beach, I love a can of beer in like a koozie.
Yeah.
Love the koozie. I have a hard time drinking cans without the koozie. I just like it. I like that. Every once in a while, but I like bottled beer when it comes right out of ice. Like if it's in a cooler and you pull it out and like the water drips down, there's like a little piece of ice stuck to it. They got to fling
slow
off
motion,
and like, and so I like when the bottle's really cold.
Without a koozie.
I will say this though, like IPAs, like once you get out of the yellow beer and like, like the Miller Lite, Bud Lights of the world, I can't drink like, I don't know what else to call it, craft beer. I can't drink craft beer from a can or a bottle. I don't enjoy it nearly as much as a glass.
Right.
I don't know why. Does it need to breathe? You're in that game. Why?
Well, there's two things.
And John, you're an idiot is an appropriate answer too. Like there might not be you're like, well, there is no why. You're just tasting poorly.
Well, there is, I think there's science behind it. One of the things why the Waverly Brewing Company, why the beer is generally better in a can when it's brewed or it's a microbrew, is that there's this theory of science that light refraction coming through the bottles will affect the actual beer. So if you believe this science, say a green bottle like Rolling Rock or Heineken will all sort of have this like weird flavor to it because the light came through the bottle and affected the brewing process in the bottle. Because beer in a can or a bottle or a keg or anything in a vessel is constantly, it's a living, breathing thing. So it's constantly sort of evolving. So the longer it sits, the more it sort of changes, if that makes sense. So in a can, apparently you have more control over light and air and things like that. So it's a sealed, it looks like it's almost like a little keg. If you think about it, it's like a little tin thing that holds the beer in. So microbrews, and it's cheaper. It's so much cheaper to put something in a can than a bottle. So when we went to figure out can or bottle, we thought all this stuff through, and then we just believed the science. And I always put it in quotes because, again, big bottle will come and shut down our thing. Like they'll prove to us that is a myth, and that Coronas in clear bottles are always going to be fine, and that green bottles are fine and brown bottles are fine. But then you ask, like, why do they use different colored glass, which we still don't understand. But we just put it in, I don't know if this is answering the question, but we just put it in cans because the beer then is more, it's closer to what you want it to be than in a bottle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, every once in a while we get smart here. Let's no longer waste time on this podcast.
We especially when it comes to beer or drugs. Or,
John just steroids. Didn't you do a whole thing about steroids?
I did go on a
after
TED
about
talk.
10 minutes of science.
TED talk about steroid usage.
Yeah, like why it works, why it doesn't. Right. My eyes were glazing over, but I'm like, you know what? I know we're not supposed to be too serious here, but maybe someone's learning something.
Our 7 fans are Googling.
Stop them.
Everything I said was wrong. And then, there's no based on it, but yeah.
Well, what's getting back to that question? Like, have you met someone where you're just like, yeah, I once knew a mushroom grower. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, have you met, what's the strangest or most unique, I should say unique, because it's not like being in the lima bean game isn't weird or strange, but it's,
ready?
I've never met anyone. Okay.
Worm farmer, literally worms. He did worms. And it was in Georgia, and I met him at a Christmas party with my parents. And I was like, "Hey, what do you do?" And he was sort of my age, a little older. And he's like, oh, I inherited my parents' farm. It's like 400 acres. We're an organic farm. I was like, oh, cool. And, you and I are sort of inquisitive people. So I was like, organic, explain that to me. Is that just a word? And he's like, no, we do the thing where you know, the chickens come in and they shit here and that eats that shit. And, he's like, the way he described it was very blue collar. It was very cool. So it broke it down. This was years ago. So once you watch that documentary, it was like Little Big Farm or something like that. You understand how everything sort of feeds off itself when you have an organic farm. There are no real fences. You just bring in certain animals to deal with the bugs or the slugs or the things, and then you get them out once they fed and they've now fed, and you have them go poop in a different area. So you're just literally moving things around. But he was talking about his big seller, and I was like waiting for like lettuce or something, and he goes, I sell worms. And if you think about it, I've always gone into fishing places and there's worms there. And I just think They go in the backyard and they dig up some dirt.
There's just a sprinkler that just constantly moistens the dirt back and forth and the worms just emerge.
There's always some guy, Jed or someone, who has to like lift up rocks every morning and scoop up worms and he does that. He sells worms.
That's like, did he get into it at all? Like do they breed? Like,
well, there's certain worms, he needs to get them at a certain time. Like he harvests or breeds. I don't know what you want to do with worms, but he has to get them at a certain time and a certain depth of the soil, because if they come up too high or too low, he goes, and the best time is actually right after it rains. So he has to create rain scenarios, but then, so he's like a normal farmer. Like if it rains too much or if the soil's too dry, they'll go down. And then he's like, then my crop can't come up. So I have to try to get them to come back up. And he was describing it. I literally was like, put my drink down and was like, keep going. Like I was riveted. And my mom's like, come meet the Smiths. I was like, this guy makes worms. I have to talk to this guy. And it was just fascinating that there's some guy who makes worms.
Yeah.
Like he sells them in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina. And it's he's a multi-million-dollar business just selling worms. I was fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you should put them in. And I did, of course, because I can't help myself. He was using the styrofoam. He's like, I put them in styrofoam containers. I sort of was like, styrofoam, bad. But I was like, did you ever think of putting them in? And he cut me off. And he goes, I know where your head was going. Those Chinese takeout containers. Because remember the Lost Boys when he's eating?
Oh,
yeah. And I said there would be a connection for so many people my age. Like if they came in like these little Chinese takeout containers. And I was like, you're eating worms. And remember, he's like, and then he throws it down and they're all like, our vampire magic.
I thought where you were going with that is when he was just like, if you said, have you ever considered putting, he's like, yes. No matter what you say, the answer is yes, because what else do I consider?
Right.
Like, think about the things that go into that. It's grow the worms,
dirt,
get the worms, put the worms in something. It's like 33% of his job.
Right.
So he's probably considered every single vessel that a worm, do you know what I'm saying? Like so can you imagine if you were just like, what about like a
have you ever thought
plastic
putting little hats
like that you get coleslaw in at the grocery store? And imagine if you were just like, plastic, a plastic container with a lid.
Have you ever thought of
he takes out a phone, like plastic container with a lid. Look into that.
Right. Yeah. Well, keep going.
Do you have any more ideas, John? Do you have any more ideas for me?
Right.
Do I name the worms?
There's so little amount of like logistics in the worm business, probably in the worm game, that you're right. Like he's failed and succeeded at almost all of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was probably, remember in 2003, there was that failed attempt to like use human poop on it. Like he did something weird, you know what I mean? And then because he wanted to think outside the box, where it's like you said, it's a business that you can't mess up. You're just like, grow the worms, harvest the worms, put worms in a container, take worms to our business.
We could kill the worms. I don't know if like you're supposed to fish with live worms, right? Like because they move around.
But now I've had, they're not worms, but now that I started fishing again, there are they're not freeze dried, but they're fermented, or they're pickled almost, and they're little animals, like little crickets and worms. And I think that there's it's bait that you can put on your line. And I thought the first time I got this package, I was like, this is going to smell so bad. When I opened it up, and I was like, not bad. It wasn't bad at all. And then part of me was like, I wonder what these taste like, because they're pickled and they're live things, and you just put them on your hook. And I guess they do it because they preserve better. They just don't rot. So you can keep them on your boat, and you can just throw it down as a Ziploc bag. But I don't know if he's gotten to that game yet.
Does rain, I guess rain and worms, because the rain, I guess, surfaces
he was saying moisture.
Because I'll like after rain, what's weird, like, and I'm just out in the suburbs, right? I got a lawn in the driveway. And after it rains for like an hour, I'll go out to the driveway, and there'll be like 6 worms in my driveway. Mm-hmm. And I'll be looking around like, where did you pop up? Like I'm looking for holes in the driveway. I'm like, why are you just kind of, doing your little thing, like looking for, to get back home on a driveway? And I guess they emerge from the grass and then get washed there. I don't know.
Well, they're always looking for moisture. But what was funny was I said, who are your competitors? Because, we're in marketing. I was like, who are your competitors? And he's like, competitors. And I was like, well, yeah. Like, is there like Bob's worms are better than Joe's worms? He's like, they're worms. And I was like, so does anyone creep in on your market? Like, you have so many, there's only so many tackle fish places. And he's like, I have my places and other guys have their place. We know each other. And he goes, mine are just organic. And I was like, does that make them better? And he goes, right. I don't know.
You're going after the healthy fish?
And of course, like this guy, I totally overthought his business. I was like, so do you have a logo and a brand and everything? He's like, I sell worms. And I was like, yeah, but like you need like t-shirts and hats and like swag and Bobby's worms and something like that. And he's like, no, I just sell worms.
But he's competing against other like fake worms, right? Like, like he's competing against all bait.
But there's guys
you still want to pop on a shelf, I think, right? Or do you want to make it look like Jeb in the backyard was uncovering rocks and putting worms in? Like, do you want to make, like, if you have no branding whatsoever, imagine just a carton.
That's what he has.
Yeah. Then maybe you think like these are fresh worms that they found outside.
Yeah. So he doesn't even he puts them in containers and that's it. Like, he's like, when you go to a bait and tackle place and you open up the container and you get the worms, you don't out and go, and who are these? Whose worms are these? Can you tell me how these were harvested, or was there any suffering? Are these organic? It's like, you literally are just like, I need worms. So I sell them to guys sell them. They call me when they need more worms. I was like, this is genius. Like, it literally is. You need zero marketing. All you need, it's a B2B. All I need is more bait and tackle places. And then he was saying, again, this is literally at a Christmas party. Like, of course, I want to take his business and be like, we need swag, we need hats, we need recipe book, we need all this stuff. And he's like,
recipe book.
I have an organic farm, and this is something I kind of fell into, and it is what it is. Like, it's a sustainable revenue source of mine, because I also sell lettuce and tomatoes, and I have some hogs that I sell off. Like, he had this whole thing. He's like, I'm just in the worm game, and he's like, I just never thought I would be, and it's grown, but it grows when I want to pay attention to it.
I feel like if they were going to market, it would be to get more people like casually fishing.
Right.
I feel like if you can, like you don't need to sell worms if there are no new fishermen or women. Right.
We should have been like, hey, have you ever thought of like sponsoring a NASCAR car, getting in a NASCAR a little bit, and maybe
because nothing says speed like a bunch of worms.
Yeah. Or Bass Pro. Have you like linked up with like big box worm guys, but Yeah, it's funny because another side note is you and I and marketers or people in advertising and marketing, we're always looking at businesses and we're saying like, how can we make them better?
Right.
That's our job. Like our job is to like come into a business as a consultant and say, what problems are you having, what challenges are you having, and how can we make it better? It's either, it's like butts and seats. We need to sell more left-handed hammers. We need to figure this out. But when you meet someone that has a business and they're just like, yeah, it's good. I like it. It's sustainable. We're always like, how to make it better.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like if you like at the beach, you're probably like talking to some of your other house owners that have businesses, they're lawyers or they're accountants. And they're like, yeah, I've got my book of business and it's good. It keeps me going. And you're always like, okay, we need to like, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought of that? And they're like, no, I just kind of like, I got my people and I've always had them and it's a good business and I don't really want to grow. You know what I mean? Like when you meet that person that they're just satisfied with the lane they're in and it's not too much. They have up years and bad years, but they're just always in this zone. They're like, I make enough money to just be able to do this. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. It's always weird to me whenever you get into the debate, like especially I have a lot of car experience, and whenever I'm talking to dealerships or something, and I'm just convinced that their ad, like it looks ugly. There's starbursts all over the place. The cars aren't even centered,
Mm-hmm.
And I show them a much prettier version, and they're like, I don't know. I think this other one works, right? And then you're like, well, oh, by the way, where are you? Like, oh, I'm on my yacht. I'm outside Turks and Caicos. I'm thinking about just sailing for this month. And then I just think like, well, what the fuck do I know? Like,
what about what?
Like, I'm going to tell him that his starbursts don't work, right? Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah, and that's a hard justification of what we do when they're doing so well with shitty stuff,
right,
or that we consider shitty stuff,
right.
And you always said,
I think most people would consider shitty stuff.
Best way to say 50% off is 50% off. But that drives us nuts because we're like, no, there's got to be like a hook. There's got to be an angle or a wink. Sometimes you just have to say 50% off is 50% off and people are going to buy it or they're not. But we look at it and then imagine having businesses that are just like, I'm good being flat. I'm good at just making this amount of money. And this amount of money makes me happy and it makes me be able to do what I want to do as a small business owner. And, and then you look at them, you're like, well, then what do I do? And then you're like, all right, I guess
the answer is nothing. That's
nothing.
Why we're not paying you.
Right. Yeah. So I can't sell marketing services to a worm farmer because he's like, I'm good, man. And he kind of like winked when I was like, you need t-shirts and hats. And he's like, we thought about that, but that just sounds like a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And
I was like, it kind of is, but
But that's also like, I think I could speak for me too, where it's like, I'm at a place with our business where, I think growth would be good. And if someone can pitch me on an idea that I think would be a smart way to grow, but I'm pretty content. Like I like where I am in my life. I like what I'm making. I want to sustain this. If I can sustain this just until I drop off, that'd be great. Right. Because I also know how much money I leave on the table by not traveling 3 days a week, looking to hustle, meeting people, dropping off business cards, like spending my weekends thinking about a new pitch and how those people can be better and stuff like that. Like I like the balance because I feel like the more successful you get, the more of a commitment to that success and to the work and to the growth. And like, I know an example, we were just talking about this the other day, my wife and I, we were walking around Fenwick Island in Delaware, the beach town, and we were looking at all these multi-million-dollar homes that are, I mean, they're, a couple blocks away from me and they're right on the beach. And like they look like 7 bedrooms, like there's a grand piano that you can see through the window and it's a beach house. Right. And like, there's just these beautiful homes and they're probably, some of them are probably 5, 6, 7, 8 million. And whenever we always walk down that street. Right. And most of the time I get house envy. Right. So I was walking with my wife, last week we were there for the week's spring break And I said, does it ever bother you that like we'll never be in one of these? Like my profession, like what I chose to do in life, like it's just there's no way we'll ever be able to afford a $3 million vacation house, a $1 million vacation house, right? Like there's just it's never going to happen. Does that bother you? And she said, no. And I'm like, are you just saying that to make me feel good?
So,
right? Like
so I don't jump
because
in the middle
I
of
want
coastal
that.
highway.
Like
right.
I want that. You don't? I do. And she said, the problem is that if we had it, I would be there by myself most of the time because you would be catering to whatever the fuck paid for that. Right. And I thought that was a really good point. And she's like, plus, you don't know what goes on in there. You don't know if they're on their third marriage. You don't know if there's family dysfunction. You don't know that like their kids resent whatever made that money and they don't visit.
Right.
You know, she's like home is just it's stuff, right? Like it's siding
more,
and it's plaster and it's drywall and it's carpet. Like it's not. It's just a thing. And whatever went into
it's
making
a view,
all that money to get that thing, like you don't know the sacrifices that went in to get that thing. And and they could be perfectly well-grounded, great people, right? But a lot of times it's just, they're, the husband's never there, the wife is never there, and they split the time. And like, I also see a lot of nice homes go up for sale, and I'm like, I wonder why they're selling. They seem like about divorce. And they have to liquidate it for divorce proceedings. Yeah. So I'm like, I guess that makes sense. So and then it's so I, taking this full circle, I mean, I can understand it's not a laziness, right? If someone's just like, no, I'm content where I am,
that's the word, contention. Yeah. I think there's a constant battle between being content and being inspired or being motivated in business. So say you are content. There's no support for you, not you, for one as a business owner,
right,
to be content with the level of business they're at, like the worm farmer. There's always this feeling when you have a small business that you have to grow it, you have to make it bigger, you have to make the agency bigger. That's 7 people. I want to be 14 people by 2 years. I'm at 2 million in billable. I want to be 5 million in billable. But no one's ever asked why. Like, what is your mission? Is your mission to be able to then employ more people or to be mentoring young people then up in the business? Or like, what is the motivation other than, and this is where we're sounding like weird hippies, is like fucking Lamborghinis or whatever it is, whatever is your motivation. So some people are motivated by that. And you see them on the social medias, like showing off their Rolexes and driving Lamborghinis. And that's what success looks like. And it can, and you can dangle those things in front of people and be like, yeah, that's successful. But to you and to a lot of people, I think is, well, it's just stuff. A car is a car. Whatever car you drive into work, you can drive in a quote unquote piece of shit or a Lamborghini. You're still driving into work and you're still in a thing. And maybe that thing is more comfortable and maybe that thing does more things for you. But it's interesting. I'm working with a business right now, consulting with them. And they're a small business that has always done in the gray or the black for almost 15 years. And the owner is struggling with, I want to do better. I want this business to do better. And I don't know what I need to do. And literally just sitting with them for the first time, it wasn't increased sales. It was, well, you need to be better organized with your people. And then I think you're going to be more profitable because people are just working hard. They're not working smart. And I was trying to show him that you don't have to increase your sales. You don't have to go find new markets. You don't have to do all these things yet. I think you need to figure this thing out first. And then if you can make more money doing that, you've really done nothing but internally organize yourself better. You don't have to then now go hit the road and market and sell, because even if you just went and did that, you're still putting it through a factory that isn't functioning really well. So he never really saw that as a thing. I was like, no, I don't think you should go sell anything. I think you should keep doing what you're doing. We need to fix this. We need to figure out, why does she do that and why does he not do that? And then once we can kind of figure that out, your profitability might go up and what you produce might go up. So you might not have to do anything in sales, but we're always driven. Like, even I get it where I'm trying to talk to a worm farmer and my brain's like, I think I know how to make you more money. You know what I mean? And he's like, I'm content, man. And he probably has a boat and all his things and the things that make him happy.
He probably wants more time. He doesn't want more money.
Well, motivations change as your years. Can
you think of a way to get these worms out of the ground faster so that I can go sit on the dock?
Or when can I get out of this game where I can actually use the farm, the worms, and just go fishing all the time? Because that would make me really happy. I think, we both know that motivations change as you change through your life. Like what motivated you when you're in your 20s completely changes the minute you're in your 30s, 40s, you have kids, all this stuff, like your motivations change. And sometimes at one moment it's money and then the next minute it's time. And it's interesting because when you see someone our age or on their third act and they still have the same motivation as to make more money, I don't have a problem asking those people why. Like, when is enough enough? And I don't know what that is unless they're trying to build a legacy for their kids. They say that, like, I don't want my kids to ever work again. Like, is that good parenting?
Is this the third act?
Yeah.
No, I mean, now as soon as you said that, I'm like, what was act one? Like where does act one end? Because college is its own act.
Yeah.
It just is. Right. If you went to college. It
starts when you first start working. Act one is like you first start, like, now I have to think.
Oh, so you've skipped over elementary school.
Yeah. No, I meant act one in your career.
In your career. Okay.
You're working.
Because like there's a third act. I'm like, you're being awfully generous with act one and act two, because I'm trying to compartmentalize them, and there's just no way. There's like act 1B, act 1C, act 1D.
Right. If you read my book, no, I'm kidding. I don't have a book, but I see
you're not far from a book.
Your career in 3 acts, and your first act is when you're just working. You're not talking a lot in meetings. You're observing a lot. You're doing, but you're being told what to do.
You haven't worked with young people recently, have you? Because where can I find them? Where can I find the right. Act one people who just sit there and listen? That'd be great. And then, do you have a number I can call?
Right. Yeah. It's true. I had it at my 2 jobs ago. I was working with, and like everyone wanted to vote and everyone wanted to, we can talk about that. But act 2 is you're now in a position that you have to be talking more. You have to be making more decisions. You have to be taking people, teams, and telling them what to do and putting them in positions.
You're accountable.
Exactly. Your neck's on the line. So that's the second act. Now, where you are in management is up to your career, but that's what you're doing. And then the third act, what I find interesting is after all of that, the third act is now what? Because you might not want to be a CMO or a C-suite or a senior vice president of some. Just want to be like, I think I just want to work for myself, or I think I just want to be a worm farmer, or I think I just, you have these options on your third act to be able to be like, what do I do with all this, the 20 years of experience? How do I make sure I leave my career, my work environment the right way? And everyone's always worried about retirement. You know what I mean? Do you have enough for retirement? And I've come to the conclusion that I think you just stop working when you don't want to work anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when do you think you're ever going to stop working?
It'll be something. I'm asked that a lot. Like, what age do you want to retire? And I'm like, I don't know. Why do I have to? Do I have to decide that now?
Why is it 65? Why does it have to be a certain year?
Right.
I don't think we're in that world anymore.
I think, but I do think there are worlds where, you get to a certain level or age and might be pensions, or there might be things where it actually makes more sense not to work. You know, like if you can make slightly less money doing something else, why work? But to your point, you're going to do something else, right? Like my father-in-law went straight from retirement, and it was a civilian government job. Like he worked at a proving ground, and he retired because like there was a certain age where like that you made it to this, you've been working this long, you're tenured, you have a pension, you're now retired, right? I'm not even sure if he decided. It might have been decided for him. No, he decided. He said, okay, this is where I'm going to retire. So he retired. He stayed home one day, and then he started volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. And he started building lots of local homes or helping with. And then as he was getting older, he started doing a little bit more admin. So he would like work in the warehouse where they would get donations. And he started working so many hours that they were like, hey, like, I don't know that we can even do this legally. So we kind of have to pay you. Can we just employ you? And next thing you know, like he's on a payroll. He's got set days, set hours. It's basically another job.
He's got another job.
Yeah. He's got another job. And it's more part-time-ish, maybe 25 hours a week. But like he went right from one job to another job.
Right. But if he enjoys what he's doing, and the gravy of it is that he's getting paid.
Sometimes like he'll come home and like if we're visiting, and he'll be like, ugh, the other day, Bubba. And like he talks about it like it's a job. Like the things that are done wrong, the bureaucracies of stuff, you know, and like he talks like he's 30, you know, like working at some admin at some job.
Yeah. My dad got out of the game after 9/11 because I think it had nothing to do with the unfortunate terrorist attack. It had everything to do with, he was traveling all the time, and he was probably in the air more than he was on the ground. Like there was a time where, like I always said, that he had enough frequent flyer miles to be on the space shuttle. Like he could just go on the space shuttle and come back and it would be free. He was just traveling too much, but I don't think he knew he was, because it was what he had always done. Then 9/11 happened and he was like grounded, and it became such an arduous task. But yet I don't want this to sound like, oh, poor him, but it was just an awakening for him to be like, I can't do this anymore. I'm stuck in Chicago. I understand the circumstances, and maybe I'm telling this incorrectly or insensitively, if that's a word, being insensitive about it. But he was like, I have to rent a car and drive to Atlanta from Chicago because I can't fly anymore. And he said, I just went home and was like, you know what? I don't think I can do this anymore. And it was this event that woke him up to be like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And it wasn't him. It wasn't the work. It wasn't the job. I think it was the things that he had to do for his job. And most of it was travel. It wasn't, again,
I don't think it woke him up. I think it changed.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was feeling like this for a year or two. I think it probably was just like all of a sudden one day it's like, I enjoyed this or put up with this, or my body allowed me to tolerate this yesterday. And today, not anymore.
I think it just drives me a little nuts is when you read football coaches or football, just players, not always football, but players, professional athletes, professional coaches. When they retire, they're like, we've made a decision as a family and we want to spend more time together as a family. I want to spend more time with my kids. And you're like, your kids are in college. Like your kids are in like late high school. Now all of a sudden you want to spend time with them. Like it's that.
Also, you're at the club every night still.
Right. So
what happened there?
I always think it's that same PR thing that someone says. It's like when two people are getting a divorce, it's like we're having, differences, blah, blah, blah. And there's all this language that says, and if you could respect our privacy, that would be great. They're going through a divorce. You don't have to like give a PR release on that, which I always thought was stupid. But when coaches say they want, or players, they want to spend more time with their family, I was like, you've been doing this since you've been like 20 years old. You work 18 hours a day, you get paid scraps, and now you're getting paid a lot of money. Just say that you're burned out or you want to walk away from it. Yeah. And now you got to go learn your kids' names. Like just
Wouldn't it be great to hear? Wouldn't it be great for a coach to come out to the podium? It's like special announcement today. I am going to be retiring at the end of this season. Quite frankly, I'm fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't feel like waking up at 5 anymore. I don't want to look at game film. If I have to look at another minute of game film, right, I am going to throw something through the screen. My players are fucking morons.
Right.
My owner is unreasonable.
Right.
The fans are relentless. I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't stay at home. Right. I don't want to just hang out at home all day because that would suck too.
Right.
I'm just unhappy right now and I need to do something else because this ain't it. And I just want out.
Yeah. It's insane. This person is insane.
Because that's the reason.
John Gruden.
I don't know. That's the reason why most of those people retire. What I just said is the reason.
Oh, yeah. But do you remember when John Gruden retired? And then they found him and he had this little office suite and he was just watching game film and breaking down game film for different coaches because that's what he loved doing. He was waking up still at 4:00 in the morning, going into his office. No one was paying him to do this. That's insanity. Like he was just like, I am obsessed with football. And he would break down. Then they made a show about it where he was literally on his time bringing in quarterbacks and being like, this is what you did wrong here. This is what you did right here. It was called like John Gruden Camp or something like that. And no one was paying him to do this. Like he literally he probably hates his social life or his life so much that he goes into this world and this is where he feels comfortable. Like he didn't decide to just shut down and kind of just hang out. But then you have guys that are like, oh, I just want to spend more time with my family. And now they've got a headset on and they're on tour doing broadcasting.
Right.
Well, you're not spending any time with your family. You're still doing broadcasting. You're still in the game. You're still traveling, doing this thing
all over the place.
Yeah. Like you're not like kicking your feet up wearing flip-flops. You're on tour.
I bet that happened for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And then they're just like,
miserable.
Now what? Yeah. Now what? And that's why I think a lot of people, when they retire, when they don't have a plan, they think they're just going to play golf or they think they're going to go fishing. Or think about this. If you have been working your entire life and then one day you just decide to stop, it's like coming off of the front lines probably of a war zone and then going into a green zone or back line and then thinking, oh, I'm just going to act normal. Or, you know what I mean? Coming out of the military and just going, there has to be this transition period. There has to be this wind down period. And companies probably do a horrible job doing that for their warriors. They're their people that have been working for them forever. Just be like, we need to wind you down. I don't think you should quit. I think we should give you
do a cold turkey.
Work. Yeah. Part-time work.
I have a friend who travels all the time, a lot of travel, and he's married with children. And sometimes there'll be an event where like he's home for 3 weeks at a time, which is usually it's at least one trip a week, sometimes for 3, 5, 10 days. But one time he was home for like 3 weeks, and I was like, how is it? And he was like, honestly, it's fucking terrible. And not because I don't love my wife and kids, I do. And not because we don't get along, but like the routines are completely different now. Like she'll be cooking dinner and I'll be in the kitchen and I'll like get out a pot and and she's like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm helping you. I'm home now. I'm helping. And she's like, no, you're hurting. Like I have there's a routine. Yeah, that we do most of the time when you have to
integrate yourself back into this world.
And now you're here and it's sort of ruining the household
our
routine.
Vibes all messed up.
Yeah. And he's just like, well, what do? I put gloves on and just stay in the corner, not touch anything? Like I don't know where to go or what to do, or
it's a process probably.
Yeah. Like
I think we know a lot of people in the race world that always complain about the travel and their schedule, and the next year they're fucking up and doing it again. They never made a change. They never figured it out. And maybe that's the way they make their money. And I understand that, but it is what it is when you're on the road 100 and some odd days a year.
They raced on Easter this year. They had a race on Easter. And I was reading a lot of people on social media were talking about that's so unfair to all the people and all the teams to make them work on Easter. They should be with their families. They should be doing Easter tradition, Easter holiday. And I'm reading all these and I'm like, have you met any of these people?
Right.
Like, do you honestly believe that like the front tire changer would prefer being at home, probably hosting some weird aunt and their families and in a suit and going to church and then coming home and like having to entertain.
Right. Yeah,
that's what they'd rather do. You're saying that they don't want to be at a racetrack doing what they love doing. They'd rather be in a suit with Uncle Bob drinking their good beer.
Right. It's funny because it's the same thing for, say, the teams that play on Thanksgiving. And they're like, oh, they never get Thanksgiving. I was like, but they're professional athletes. And they probably look forward to this tradition of football because there's people in the stands.
Yeah. A lot of them that go, and it's their tradition. Like we ate or we'll eat later. There's 100,000 people in Dallas that go on Thanksgiving Day to go watch their team. So that's their tradition. So again, when you look at it, you're like, oh, sorry, you weren't home for Easter. I think if you polled everyone, they're probably like, it's fine. Yeah.
Because I'm never home as it is.
But they'll give the PC answer. Like you said, they're like, well, we take our job seriously and yeah, I'd prefer, but what they're like, you just want to hear someone say, you're never home on Easter. Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. Well, you and I know someone mutually that when we've talked to him, at least, and I know I've talked to him about when it's off season, how do you, like you said, like in the kitchen, or like, how do you reintegrate yourself into your world? And he's like, man, I'm just in the way. I'm always fucking things up. They don't even know me. And like, and he goes, then I get to know them. And like, then I'm like trying to parent and they're like, shut up. You're never here. And he's like, I don't have any like say. And then I don't really know what's going on.
So instead I just have to be fun dad.
Right. Like you're kind of like,
hey, you want to go ATVing?
And he's on the road, 180 some days a year. And you look at it and you're like, all right, well, this is the path you've chosen. And he's like, we have a great house. My kids have good education. He provides all that stuff. He justifies it with. But I mean, I loved when he would complain about it, but yet next season, and then pandemic fucked that all up. Everyone was just home. So I wonder if they were just like itching to get out. And I remember hearing that's similar is this guy, Josh Homme, was being interviewed by Anthony Bourdain, and Bourdain had he suffered from the same thing. It was like, when you're on the road, all you want to be is home. And when you're home, all you want to be is on the road. And that's the struggle. Yeah. And that's the struggle, is that where you're not happy where you are. You're like, God, this sucks. And then you go home and you're like, I'm itching to get back out. So I wonder if I'm sure that they all suffer from that too.
I don't have that problem. I never want to leave.
Oh,
I always just want to be on the couch.
Yeah. Do you have a good couch? Do you think you're like, I mean, you're being a couch person. Do you think you have like the Cadillac of couches?
No. That sucks. Now you're making me think about it.
Is there a couch? Like if you spend a lot of time,
you know why
you want the best tool.
Okay. So at the beach house, we did get a new couch. That's great. The old couches, like we inherited the old couches from when we bought the house, and they were just a total shit box
of a couch.
Beach house. Yeah. Right. And we put those white, you've been there. We put the white like covers, let's like slip covers over them.
Yep.
But there was no firmness, right? So you got in that couch and you slink down and your kind of head went back. Remember, it had like the big, like within 10 seconds, you're just like
asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you almost need to get like, my wife would come and be like, come on, let's have dinner. I'd be like, okay, here, and she'd help me up. Right. Because like, it's just, like you immersed into this couch.
Right. So
we got a new couch, and it's like a sectional. So now instead of two couches, it just wraps like that. And it's really crazy, and it was expensive. Like it was like the first time we really splurged on furniture there. Everything else we used, because I always said like we knew we needed new couches, but we bought the house when the kids were 4 and 3. I'm like, let's just get them to a point where they're not blowing their nose on cushions and like spilling things. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's,
it's a beach house. So, we're not going to,
I want sand and suntan lotion. And I said this from day one. I was like, I don't ever want furniture in here I have to care about. Like, I don't want furniture that would be a big loss. I want to get upset if furniture here gets ruined because now I have to actually motivate to do something about it. Not because we lost that piece of furniture. Because you're right. Like I go there it's not a museum. Right. Like there's going to be oils and lotions and entertaining and stuff. Right. And
Fires.
So we got fires, s'mores,
right,
chocolate. So we got nice couches. And I was like, I almost paid as much for the materials to be stain retardant as I did like the couch, the build.
Right.
They're like, which we need to pick out the material now. I'm like, just get to the chapter where you don't protect against stains any better. Just go right to that chapter. We're choosing that color, like whatever it comes in. And like, I want water to bead on these couches. Right. And, so yeah, we got them. And now it's just, it's so different. Cause like I sit down and now like I'm all proper. I'm like, wow, like, is this how I'm supposed to be sitting?
How does it feel in shorts? Like, does
and
it
I can
feel
still fall asleep in it. Believe me, I can.
You're not like sticking to it, and you're like,
no, it's a nice couch. Like I sit. Right. Is it the Cadillac of couches? I don't even. Probably not. But like, I think my chiropractor would recommend it. Right. Like I kind of sit. I'm sit up, and I'm like, I don't know if it needs to break in. I don't know, like what has to. Like, is there things that has to happen to it to be different? Like at one day, is it going to be like those other couches I tossed where someone else is going to sit in it and just kind of,
right.
I don't know.
A bunch of stoners passing a bong back.
But now you make me think, like, I don't know why I don't invest more in my home do nothing experience.
Right.
It's a weird chicken egg because that would require doing something and I don't want to do anything. But if I did something to enhance the do nothing experience, is that a wash? I don't know.
Because now you're doing something.
Because now I'm doing something.
Because your hobby is doing nothing.
That's if you call it a hobby, that's my lifestyle.
They're like, John, what do you do?
Not even a hobby.
On your spare time. I eat wings and watch hockey with my wife. We drink beer and then we fall asleep on the couch. We get up and that's what we do.
Like, yeah. If you had if you just had to guess what I did last night,
mm-hmm.
I'm trying to like, it didn't have wings, but we definitely watched a hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
Rangers beat the Islanders. We were on the couch. She fell asleep on the couch. I went up to bed around midnight, but that's what we do.
Oh.
And like,
we had different nights.
Well, what was your night?
Very active.
Oh yeah.
I was at the gym for 2 hours. Yeah.
You worked out you can work out at night.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to take another shower before bed? What was that shower number 3?
It's 3 shower. It's a 2 to 3 shower now. We're back in a 2 to 3 shower cycle.
I can't work out at night. I
love
get
it.
Too pumped up and I can't fall asleep.
There's times where I do pumped up, where when the weather breaks, I'll probably work out twice a day. Unless I get physically just I'm fucking exhausted. But
what motivates you to work out? Because now I'm turning 50, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at this weird. I don't know if we should just. I don't know how long we've been talking. Maybe this is a topic for another. We didn't even pick out the hat again.
Right.
And this wasn't even this is almost serious. We're seriously talking about career shit.
I wonder if people listen to this. I always think that. I'm like,
at least we know that the next episode we don't need to care about because they've all tuned out.
Right.
Like there's a part of me that when I really am maybe this is my midlife crisis. I never really went through a midlife crisis, right? I was pretty much my whole life has been pretty even. Maybe a little bit up.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm like, all right, I'm turning 50. Do I take a more active role in my health? Do I start eating different? Do I exercise more? Certainly doctor visits are, change. Or what's the point? What's the point? Like, am I really ever going to be 25? Am I really going to get that kind of body? Like, if I were to work out relentlessly for a year and a half, am I going to look in the mirror and be like, oh, yeah, there you are, my long lost friend, No. So I'm sort of in this I'm turning 50. Maybe now I take up smoking.
Yeah.
What the fuck's the other way? Like, what am I like I've hit this milestone. That's like, yeah.
Coke
maybe
parties.
Now what did you say?
Coke parties with John, at 50. Well,
Yeah, but I really am so I'm trying to figure out because I also feel like there's a crummy reward to working out at fit. Like if I'm going to now start working out and exercising strictly to live longer, it's not so much about looking better or being healthy, which I guess is living longer. But if it's just to live longer, I'm like, well, maybe I just enjoy life more
now
shorter
then
as
have more
opposed to,
time on the back end.
and
Yeah.
it's like now I'm just, it went from like in your 20s and 30s, you can work out and exercise and like look great. And you're just like, wow, look, the great body strength. Like I'm never gonna have strength. Even
Right.
I'm just not even, my DNA won't even allow strength. Doesn't matter how many, I'm just, so in the 20s and 30s, there was like a physical and emotional goal. I feel like now it's just sustainability, which is weird because I don't think you enjoy sustainability as much as look at the stud in the mirror. Like I'm going to a
Yeah.
beach now. It's almost, it's like when you get a new roof, like it's so much money, but you don't enjoy it
No,
because you're just like, this
it's
is
what
what
you
it's,
need to do.
this is
Right.
what I'm supposed to be dry.
Right.
Like I'm in a house, I'm supposed to be dry. So I just spent $26,000 still dry,
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like working out at 50 is almost just like, I'm still alive, still breathing, like it's just,
Yeah.
it's, there's no, I don't know.
I just look at it differently because I looked at fitness in my 30s and 40s the way you were describing it. Like, I want to be able to change my body. And that was ego. And that was like me being like, oh, okay, maybe I can control that.
But it probably made you feel good to look
Yeah.
good, right? Like that's real.
But you don't, if you have body dysmorphia, you just never think you look good. You never think you look like anything. Yeah, I have it. Like, I never feel like, I don't think I look fit. And that's a share. Like, I really don't feel like I look any different than when I didn't work
Stand in the
out.
mirror next to me if you want to cheer up.
But I think now, and the research that I've done without being evangelical about it and telling people what to do, it's like, I feel like at 51, one, I love doing it because it helps me mentally. When I'm in the gym, I just shut down and I can just focus on the thing. And my brain doesn't go. And for us, we're similar and our brains are constantly going. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be in the shower, it could be. And the gym is the one time where I try to like just focus on what the task at hand. And that's why I like the combat sports, because you can't
Nothing
think,
clears your hand like a fist.
but you can't think about someone's brand while you're in a combat situation. You have to think about what's in front of you. So you have to shut that down. So I really enjoyed that part of it. But now at my age, I feel like why I felt like this has become part of my lifestyle is because the work I'm doing now, I think will benefit me when I'm 70. Like, I will be able to walk better, to get out of chairs better, to be able to be more mobile. I think because I've changed the way I approach fitness and diet, is I'm just trying to have a better 70s. And I could fall over dead tomorrow and everyone can laugh and be like, that was a waste. But
you feel better in the moment, so it's not a waste.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm doing something and I feel productive, especially at this stage in my life and what I'm kind of working through. I need to feel like I'm in control of something. And if I can control and focus and sort of have some research on diet and exercise and those types of things, I feel like that's something I can get involved in. But I don't ever try to be, again, like I said, evangelical about it, because I don't like those people. Like,
right.
I don't like those people that tell people what they have to do when it comes to fitness and diet. People can do whatever they want to do. Like, people can January 1st wake up and say, this is the year that I'm going to get fit and I'm going to look fucking great at the beach. And the beach is in May, so I'm going to start in January. That's great if that's what you're going to do. But you have to make it then a consistency and then change why you're doing it. If you're doing it because you feel like you look good, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, because no one at the end of the day kind of cares what you look like, unless you're being paid to look like a certain way. But I don't know. I think it's some people.
But you look good, feel good, and you just kind of described exactly what I'm struggling with, with like, yeah, if I get more flexible now, if I take care of my legs, I take care of my hips, I stretch, I exercise, I treat my body well. Then when I'm 70, I'll be able to get out of a chair easily. right? And without pain.
That's the theory.
But then I think about that and I'm like, well, I'm supposed to get out of a fucking chair. I'm supposed to not have pain when I get out of a chair. I can't believe that I'm going to make all these sacrifices to do something I should normally be able to do. Again, it's like the roof. I'm going to spend all this money and all this disruption so that I can remain dry, like.
But if you look at, again, from another perspective, and this is going to sound pretty pious, but if you go into where I live,
do that which you hate. No,
where I live, it's a lot of people that I consider are borderlining obese or very much overweight.
So you live in America.
And seeing them struggle with very simple physical activities of walking, stepping up a step, getting out of a car, those physical activities that you and I probably take for granted that we can just do them without a problem. We can just get out of, we can make noise. I'm like, oh my God. But I see that and I want to help people be like, all you have to do is a little bit of fitness. And there might be a stigma in their community about being fit or losing weight because they're more supported to just eat the bad food and the bad diet and not do the exercise and sit on, and just not move. But I see them struggling, and you look at someone that you think would be around our age and they're in their 30s. So you kind of look at it and you're like, I do get judgy where I was like, all that person needs to do is some sort of physical activity 3 days a week and change their diet a little bit. And they're going to feel a lot better. Now they might have diabetes. They might be walking on bad knees. They might be like completely bloated with fluid. Like who knows what's going on in the world, but I'm surrounded by it. And I do feel kind of weird is that when you see it, there's no quick fix. It's just a change. It's like literally a shift, but their community and I think their families really don't support it because it's ingrained in who they are. Is if Doris all of a sudden decided to take Zumba, hopefully everyone's supportive of that.
Right.
But she might be an outlier. She might be like, oh, she's getting all thin. Like, like, all right, I don't know.
My parents in their beach house used to have a sign on the refrigerator. And it just says, Lord, if you can't make me thin, please make my friends fat.
Right.
Which sounds like
together.
That sounds like a better kind of diet.
Yeah.
We should probably wrap up soon so that my computer doesn't crash. Although we haven't dicked on any industries, have we? So I don't know who would be listening to do this. We didn't pick out of the hat again. And this is kind of serious. These were like light.
It was sort of serious. It was, I wonder if anyone would sit in their car and listen to this. Two dudes talking about shit.
Maybe.
Who knows?
If everything else if they've listened to everything else, they're just waiting. They're like, John's going to say something. And then it doesn't. We just start talking about our midlife crisis and working out. And but
this is a good one.
Yeah, I mean that's where I am right now. I'm really at that like crossroads of like maintenance versus just enjoy whatever time I got left. And if I can marry, that's your homework. Let's figure out how I can marry like enjoying, sustaining this temple, this temple I'm walking around in. You know, like because again, it's just like I'm like, oh, I'll go get on the treadmill for a half hour. And then I started, I'm like, but like, why? I'm never going to be 30.
Why
again,
bother?
20, like it's just, is this so that I can breathe either at 70? I guess. I don't know.
I got you.
All right. Well, we will pick for, what is this one titled?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing click.
Ronaldo. Yeah. So this is Ronaldo. And then we didn't even have like a topic. Like what should we
Worm farm.
Worm farm?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll call it worm farm. Ronaldo worm farm. Cool.
Good.
All right, brother.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.
All right. Love you, man. I'll talk to you.
Peace.